Well, welcome to the shit show. Facebook was extra cruel today. I literally started this live right at 2 o'clock, and I was like, the tech gods must have been appeased. It must have been the full moon. Like, this is so great. And then I realized that Facebook counted me down and told me I was live, but in fact, it wasn't connecting. And quite frankly, it looks like it's doing the same friggin' thing right now. I can't see that I'm live at all. What is happening? Okay, it says I am. It says I am. It says I am. Cool. Obviously, I had to reroute and use my phone because I don't know what was happening with the computer. Like, literally, it was just like, it says live up in the corner. And then at the bottom, it's like, starting live video. And like, I'm checking the group and it's not coming through, not coming through. So I'm glad that it's here and then it's connected. Why? Why is this the bane of my existence? Why is this so flipping hard? I just want to help you guys out for 20 minutes every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Why is it so complicated? Okay, I think we're good. We'll see how this goes. So luckily I don't have anything where I'm like, oh, well, I was going to screen share and no, I can't. That's not the case today. I want to talk to you guys about problem solving today. That was one of the things that y'all had requested we talk about is problem solving strategies. And I think there's maybe some misconception here that this is gonna that maybe this is rocket science, okay? It's not. And I learned this a little bit more every single day. So as humans, I think that we overcomplicate things, especially as humans in today's society, where we're like, well, I'm not a veterinarian and I couldn't possibly know that. And, you know, I don't have the time to learn about this and all these things, right? Been there, felt that. Also, as not a veterinarian, I just want to point out, I'm not diagnosing anything. I'm locating a problem, right? And sometimes I'm solving a problem, but I'm not diagnosing and treating because the words we use matter. Okay. The words we use matter in everything we do. And when it comes to staying legal, they matter. When we're talking about finding problems and solving problems, we are not diagnosing and treating. We are locating a problem and we are solving it. And sometimes locating it is me saying, hey, we've done our 3 massages and this got better and now it's back to where it was. And that tells me that this is not a soft tissue issue. A soft tissue issue. I'm going to write a song about it. Anyway, not today. So, you know, I might not be able to be like, this is the exact problem because that's not my job. It's not my job to diagnose it. But it is my job to be like, it's not a soft tissue issue. Or it is a soft tissue issue. Right? And so one of the things, I've done this several times and it's so freaking cool where I go about my business and do my thing and I'm like, hey, this isn't the problem, but I can tell you what is. And it's often saying, this is a soft tissue problem, but it's lower in the leg. It's out of my realm. It's below the hocks or below the knees, right? There's no muscle here. We're in tendon and ligament territory. And while there's stuff I can do for tendon and ligaments, like, it's not in your best interest to have me be the one to do it. Okay? I can treat it with a red light. I can put some essential oils on it. I can make sure that the nutrition plan is accurate. These are all things that you can be doing. You don't need to pay me for them, right? And also, you can call your vet and you can pay them because we want imaging. We want to track the healing process. We want to know where your horse is at currently. Like, what's the situation? How bad is it? Is it the tendon? Is it the ligament? Is it this tendon? Is it that ligament? We want to get in there. We want to know what's going on. For tracking purposes, for sure. So that we know that we're headed in the right direction or things are getting worse or whatever. But also because your vet might have some suggestions where your vet can help with better interventions than I can in that situation, right? However, I have been necessary. I have been a necessary part of that elimination process of getting to that point. And so you can do this. First of all, You are capable. It doesn't take that much time. And you're already sitting around worrying about your horse, so why aren't you learning about how to help your horse, right? And so, like, for me, I'm like, I have been asked, would I offer a quasi massage course, like a horse owner's, someone that's not looking to practice, someone that's not looking to make a business out of it? And like, well, the answer is like yes and no. Because I'm going to tell you to take the same program that I offer for everybody else. I'm going to refer you to the Intuitive Equine Bodywork Certification Program, not because you want to build a business, not because the certification is necessary for you, but because the information is already there. And I am not someone who is going to give you a piece of the puzzle and not the whole fucking thing. I don't think that serves you. I don't think it serves you to go learn how to do massage techniques that you can look up on the internet for free and not understand the problem solving and not understand how we're objectively observing the whole horse to route ourselves down the path of finding the issue, finding the problem, and solving it. Okay, so I'm always going to recommend the certification program because that's where you're going to learn all the things. Do I give a shit if you choose not to finish it? No, like, you can go learn all the things and not do the homework and therefore not get certified, and that's totally fine by me if you don't want to do that. But it's there for you if you do, because that's the other piece. So I have helped people solve problems, and then they're like, that was really cool and I want to do more. And then the next thing you know, they've got a fucking thriving business. Hello, Leanne, right? So you should have options. But let's get into it. Let's get into like how we're actually going to do the problem solving, because I'm not just going to sit here and tell you stories and fluffy fluff. I want you to actually fucking learn something. So how are we going to actually assess the horse? Well, first of all, we're looking at the whole fucking horse. So we're going to take into consideration, and I'm not going into all these things, right? But things we're going to consider is, what's their environment like? Do they have friends? Are they living outside? Are they living in a stall? What are they eating? Where are they getting their water from? At what's the height that their feed is set at? Like, are they fed up high? Are they fed down low? Are they fed on the ground? Do they have to fight for their food with others? Can they steal food from others? All these other things, right? Like, we're just going to consider all the environmental issues, all of them. What kind of fly spray to use? Is it chemical or is it natural? Or like we just need to know all the things. So when I meet with new clients, I send a ridiculously long and in-depth, intake form. And a lot of times people are like, why do you need to know all this stuff? I'm like, well, hopefully I don't need to know. But if I need to know, at least it's there, right? Like, we're saving time by starting at the beginning, getting all that information and all the background information. You need to consider, how long has this horse been with you? How much of their history do you know? Where did they come from before you? What was their environment like before? And while all of this seems like way too much information, it's all little pieces of the puzzle. It's all little pieces of the puzzle. For example, I know a horse that was imported from Spain, and in his life in Spain, he spent his entire life in a stall. Do I think that impacts what he's got going on now? Abso-fucking-lutely I do. I abso-fucking-lutely do. He also never had any dental work, because that particular farm, I'm not going to speak for everybody that has horses in Spain, because I know that won't be accurate, but at that particular farm, he lived in a stall and they trained him, and like, they were just producing horses, and it wasn't like they were worried about him performing or anything like that. They also didn't see any immediate problems, which is very common. People will tell me all the time there's nothing wrong with their horse, and I'm like, I'm watching it. There's something wrong there. Are we looking at the same horse? And people just don't know what they don't know. So when we take that really thick history, right, and we really compile everything we can about their environment and their history, be health history, environmental history, relational history, riding history, all of that, when we put it all together, we just want to set that in our back pocket. And then we're going to start from the ground up, and we're going to look at their feet. And this is one of those things, like, I'm telling you all the things I go through, but in fairness, like, you have to have a basic understanding of what a healthy foot looks like. And I'll be the first one to say that, as someone who grew up around horses and thought she knew what she was looking at, it changes over time. Okay. You start to learn a little bit more, and you start to understand a little bit more. These are all things that are covered in the certification program, because you need to know what the basics are. And these are all things that I took all of my horse experience, industry, whatever, all my history, all of that, like compiled to the point where I know all of this. It was not a one-time learning experience. And that's what I've tried to compile for people, because I know that you don't have a lot of extra time, and you sure as hell don't want to spend a lot of extra time learning shit. So I try and put it all in one place for you. But we're going to start at the feet. We want to know what a healthy foot looks like. And this isn't just like, there's no chips and cracks and they get shot and they have a good barrier. No. We need to understand more. How healthy is the digital cushion? How long is the toe? Does the toe need to be longer, or can it be shorter? Like most of the time, people think they have good toe length. It's too long. Most of the time, it's just straight up too long. How from there, how are their hoof angles? How does the angle play into the lower joints, the fetlock joint, the pastern, all of that? How does that play in? How do the knees tie in? We're looking at conformation, but I'm telling you this now because it's not like conformation. If you go into this group, okay, you're already here. If you're in here, go to the guide section. In the guide section, there is a section, like a mini course on conformation versus posture. Check that shit out. Check it out. Because so often people think that we're dealing with conformation faults and that they're permanent and there's nothing we can do about it, when in fact, we're dealing with postural issues. Okay? So go check that out. And when we're assessing for a problem, we've got all of our background information, all the environmental, all the history, blah, 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 blah. And we start at the feet and we work our way up and we look at the entire body and how the horse ties together and all the things. Is their hair healthy? Is there like mane and tail? Also like the whole of their body. Is it shiny? Is it not shiny? Are there dapples? Are there not dapples? Are they ribby? Are they not ribby? Do they have a healthy top line? Like we're assessing all of these things. Okay. All of it plays in. And then we're going to get to the point where we do hands-on evaluations. Okay. I do take pictures and I do postural assessments from pictures. That's something that's also offered in this group for completely free. Check out the featured section. You will see a post in the featured section, all about that. There's also a guide that shows some of the past ones I've done that you can kind of learn from. So we're going to assess posture, in pictures as well as in person, but we want to get our hands on the horses because pictures can be misleading, right? Shadows and whatnot and weird angles. So we're going to assess the muscular and skeletal alignment with our hands. We're going to palpate for tension, discomfort, texture changes, heat, cold, spots in the body, things like that. We're going to feel for all of that. Any spots where the horse is like, please don't touch me. We're going to feel for all of that. And we're going to put all this together to make an assessment. And from here, like the problems, like all of this that I'm telling you, you're probably like, fuck off. Like this is too much. This is why we need a professional. Sure. Absolutely. Sure. Also I occasionally offer the hands-on evaluation clinic, or, Happily Ever After was one where we kind of dug into that too. And this is all something that's part of the certification. And we go through all of this and we take in all of this information, and you as an owner, like it is your job to just compile as much information as you can. And in time, you get more skilled and better able to step back from all of this abundance of information and allow patterns to form, allow things to, hey Leanne, things to jump out at you as maybe an issue. You must have heard me talking about you because I mentioned your name. Anyway, so we get to step back from all the information and kind of just find the pattern that sticks out. And so when we're problem solving, it seems like it can be very overwhelming, but also, one of the, yes, Leanne, I'm about to go more into talking about you because this is actually what spurred my conversation today, was we often get overwhelmed and kind of panicky because we want our horses to be comfortable. But realistically, one of the best things we can do when we're problem solving is slow down. And watch where the horse is communicating to us, follow our intuition, and remember that intuition is not just woo-woo magic, it's also perception. These tiny little perception hints that your subconscious mind is picking up on and your conscious mind isn't understanding why it's important. That is also intuition. So when we can take in all this information, it gives us an opportunity to perceive more of what's going on there. Sometimes it's the sound of a hoof hitting a little heavier than another one. Sometimes it's something about this movement doesn't look right, but I'm not sure what it is yet. And when we take in all the information and we've compiled it all, and we get to step back and take some deep breaths and kind of just evaluate, not from a, like, I need an answer, what's wrong here, but from I want to understand, a desire to understand, a desire to connect with your animal, a desire to observe the patterns of the universe. Because that's the other thing too, is like we get to like step back and recognize that when we're on a problem solving mission, we can get so focused in, so blinders on, that we end up kind of missing what's actually happening. Forgive me. You showed up here and then I saw you and then it made me think exactly of what just happened. Like you kind of inspired the rant, but, but really what it makes me think of now that I'm here, Leanne, was her front feet, right? We were talking about her front feet. Her mare was off a little and she was like, I think there's something wonky in her front feet. Is it the trim, correcting the trim as best she could. Then it was, you know what, maybe we need to treat some thrush or some light white, like maybe some white line, seedy toe, something like that. And then that became the hyper focus. But I don't know how many days it was later. You're like, but we're still sore and we are muscle testing that the primary issue is not the front feet. It's not. So what is it? Right? And so we got so hyper focused on the easy problem, the thing that jumped right out at us, right? That we didn't take in the whole big picture. And it was me just as much as Leanne, right? Like, cause I heard Leanne say, and so this is a thing, if you're a practitioner, you can hear your client say that this is the problem. Don't just assume that that's the problem, right? So like when we're problem solving, it's just as much of what we're not looking at as it is what we are, right? It's so easy to go to, this is the main issue. But if we focus too hard on that, the next thing is going to be that we've missed something else entirely that was really the bigger problem. So when we go through and we do, hold on. Sorry, excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. When we go through and we do a hands-on evaluation, one of the things that I tend to, I like to explain things to people as I go. And so when I do that, I explain to people, here's what I'm finding. This is a general pain pattern, which also helps with our problem solving. I'm already running out of time, so I'm not going to be able to get into here's your pain patterns, right? But here's a general pain pattern, whatever. But if this is a first session that I'm having with someone and I'm explaining all this, I will absolutely say, this is the pain pattern that we are looking at today. When I am done today, this is likely not to be the pain pattern. When I come back in 3-4 days, whatever, this is likely not to be the same pain pattern. If it is, cool. But oftentimes it's not. It's not, because what happens is we have to start compensating for our compensations, right? And when we're compensating for our compensations, our pain patterns change, which is why we like to do 3 massages in about 2 weeks so that we can take off the first layer of compensation and see what's under there. See what we were missing that was hidden by this compensation, and then do it again. And then when we come to the 3rd massage, at that point, we usually have a really good idea. Usually I'm just yep, this is the one. We've got to the bottom. And if we're not quite that confident, then there's something else going on, which is where we come up with, issues in the soft tissue and maybe a broken bone instead of a soft tissue issue. It's I can't stop myself from saying that. Anyway, so when we're problem solving, we need to take in as much information as we can, which can feel overwhelming. And this is where it's we switch gears and we take that deep breath and we step back and we say, okay, cool. I know all of that, but what do I see? What do I feel? What do I sense? What else is going on here? Because intellectually knowing things is very helpful. But when we allow our senses to come in and play a bigger role in the process, that's where we really start getting answers, because we're taking in more information, which again can sound very overwhelming. But unpopular opinion, overwhelm is a choice. When we get overwhelmed and we choose to feel into that overwhelm, we're giving ourselves a reason to step back and be a victim and not solve the problem. I know. It's a very unpopular opinion. And yes, when I find myself in overwhelm, it's still very irritating to be I'm choosing this. This is stupid. I agree. Okay. But it's the truth. It's a choice. And so when we find ourselves in that place where we're just overwhelmed, we get to also make a choice and say, all right, I'm going to step back. I'm going to take some deep breaths. Why don't I want to figure this out? What is this that is so intimidating, right? What about this is so intimidating to me? What will happen if I actually figure it out? Or if I don't, right? I think that's a big part of it. A big part of problem solving is that we're afraid that we're not going to figure it out. We're afraid we're going to let our animal down. We're allowing ourselves to take on all this pressure. Problem solving doesn't have to be that complicated. We get to have fun. It gets to be fun and it gets to be easy. I know when you have a sore horse and they are upset and they're unhappy, the last thing you're thinking is, this is fun. It's not fun that your horse is upset, but we get to make a game out of finding the solution, because when we do that, everything gets easier, right? And remember, and maybe, I guess that was a podcast. It might have been the last episode I did. I don't know. I did a podcast about, if you believe there is no solution, you will not find it. And this does fall right off of that famous quote about, like, if you believe you can't, you're right, whatever. I don't know, something like that. Because the whole thing here is your brain will stop looking for a solution if you determine there isn't one. Okay? So as long as you believe that a solution exists, your brain will keep looking. As soon as you think there isn't one, your brain will stop looking, because your brain always wants to be right. Ask yourself a question and your brain will find the answer. It doesn't matter what the question is, it'll find an answer. So make sure you're asking good questions. That too, right? So if you're asking shitty questions, you're bound to find shitty answers. This is getting out of control. I could go on. Obviously, this is a very complex topic when we're talking about problem solving. But basically, we want to take in as much information as we can. And if you're not finding the answer, that's okay. Someone else knows more than you do and knows how to process all of this information. So as a horse owner, you have a couple options. One, get educated. Jump into the intuitive Equine bodywork certification program. Learn a whole bunch of shit about all of the things, right? Or find another program, or deep dive into something specific that you think is the rabbit hole you need to go down, right? So educate yourself. Or find a practitioner that's going to come alongside you and help. Not someone who's just going to come out and be like, oh, yeah, this is a nice fluffy little massage and I'm going to feel so good later. But they can't explain jack shit to you about what's actually going on and why. You want somebody that's going to be a problem solver. So ask the questions before you have the person out. But those are pretty much your options, you know. Go it alone, which isn't alone if you're jumping into a program and you're learning from someone, right? So get in there, learn the things, use them for the rest of your life, add to your knowledge for the rest of forever, which I feel like most people in here are probably in that bucket, or call a professional. And if you're at the point where you're overwhelmed, just call the professional. And hopefully there'll be someone that can come alongside you and calm you the fuck down and tell you that you have this completely under control, because that's usually the case. It's just that you're overthinking it and letting your brain just go wild with your overwhelm. So, okay. I've rambled long enough. So thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. If you have other topics that you want me to talk about on our Tuesday Talks, Tuesday Tales at 2 every Tuesday, where we often talk about soft tissue issues, then let me know. Let me know what you want to know. If you don't know exactly what you want to know, but you know that there's like a topic that you want to know more about, obviously the more narrow your question, the easier it is for me to answer. But if you have just a broad topic, just tell me why you want to know about it. If you tell me why you want to understand something more or know more about a particular topic, I can usually figure out exactly what kind of information to feed you. So, all right, guys, have a fabulous Tuesday and we will chat later.